All right, all right, all right,
Like, wow.
all right.
He says,
Hello, hello.
my mom is
Hello. Ah, there it is, there it is. How's everybody doing this morning? We're doing all right? It's a Monday morning. We're back at school. All right. Come on in. Find your seats. Find your seats this morning. This morning we have a very special guest. I am not going to introduce him, but I am very familiar with him. But we're going to let a longtime friend let us know who he is.
So this is Pastor Ron Dupre. He's comes to us from California, where he's currently pastoring, and he was born in South Africa, and he spent most years, probably not the majority of your life, but most years here in Berrien Springs, and that's where I first met him 42 years ago. Wow, that's old, right? And apparently your mom was working in the same study lab that I worked with and my wife worked in. So he was my boss, but more so a friend. So that almost 40 years ago, this summer, it'll be 40 years when he was the pastor for our wedding. So if that picture is there we go. And you're probably thinking, oh, there we go. You're probably thinking, how is it that Pastor Ron and Mr. Atkins didn't change in 40 years? It's just amazing how that happens. He preaches around the world and is a scholar, probably hundreds of articles that he's written and a number of books, and is working on a 1,000-page manuscript for Andrews University, I think, right now, and that's why he's here to work in the library. He's taught and lived in all the continents except Antarctica. So anyways, let's welcome Pastor Ron Dupre.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to be back in the area, and just privileged. I'm still in shock that your Bible teacher told me who he was. I gotta admit, the last time I knew him, he was like you. Okay. Just a young person and much smaller. I'm still honestly, I mean, oh man, it's just trying to overcome that. I know his mom really well. We all change, right? Yeah, so anyway. Well, Gabriel, sorry. I'm still recovering here, guys. Anyway, I want to share with you a quick story. I know I got about 17 minutes, and I know we're limited in time, but it's not about me. I want to start there by saying this is not about me, and so it's just about I happen to be on a journey of faith. By the way, this year, just in case you know, I'll be 75 years of age. And blessed, you know, and this story though ties in with that whole point of 75. What am I talking about? I call this a marathon of miracles, meaning multiple miracles that have happened in my life. But again, it's not about me, so I want to start with this important Bible verse. However, Jesus did not permit him. That's the demoniac he had actually helped and cleansed. But said to him, go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. So this is not about me. I just happen to be the one who was blessed through God's grace. Many years ago, as you can see, 1997, 2001, my wife and I went to serve as missionaries in a place called Salusi University in the country of Zimbabwe. I'm originally from South Africa, just south of Zimbabwe. My wife's an American citizen, so of course I am one as well. And one of the things people think of as Zimbabwe are animals. This is a game park we were going through one day, and of course a rhino just walks across the road. It's awesome to go to some of these countries to serve, but the reason we went there is to serve. And so here's a picture of my wife and me with many of our students. I was teaching there at our university, but also I got the chance to preach on weekends especially, and this is with a translator. But the story I want to tell you is really about this big tree over there. The tree, as you can see, was about 40, 50 feet tall and was right over our concrete driveway. And one day I climbed up a ladder. My gardener, I had a gardener, he was afraid of heights. So what did he do? He held the ladder for me so I could climb. I climbed up just climbing into the tree, and as I climbed up, this was on April 5, 1998, as you can see, pretty long ago, and as I climbed and grabbed the branch broke. I found myself falling about 20 feet towards the concrete driveway. Fortunately, my mom and dad didn't live too far away. My dad had been an EMT many years before. He showed up within a few minutes, and they took me to the hospital. And this is me. I shattered both my wrists. I shattered my right heel. I sprained my left ankle. Later on, I found out I had my vertebra compressed and my sternum had cracked. Fortunately, there was no head injury. Some good news, okay? But I want to show you the lady there with the National Geographic. That's my mom. She's passed away now. She passed away at the age of 90. So just to give you an idea, I had major injuries. I was rushed to different hospitals. As you can see here, they intubated me to keep me alive because my oxygen level began to plummet. And the reason for that is because the first doctor there in Zimbabwe, who had been fired from a government institution for malpractice, he did no surgery, no straightening of the bones, nothing. He just covered me up in casts and eventually sent me home to die. Serious. And then they sent me to the next hospital. This is me in the next hospital. They took my oxygen level to see how I was doing. Some of you know a little bit about medical stuff as you're studying in class. I developed what's called ARDS. That stands for Acute Respiratory Distress Syndrome. And that simply means because my bones were broken, what do you think seeped out? Blood, marrow, the marrow into the bloodstream. It goes through a chemical change, and then it starts filling up your lungs. Of course, how do you breathe? Well, normal oxygen level, 95 to 100%, I've been told. Mine wasn't 90%, wasn't 80%, wasn't 60%, wasn't 40%, wasn't 20%. My blood oxygen level was actually 18%. And according to doctors in different places, they say that's basically the level of a corpse. And sure enough, just amazing. But when people heard about it, they began to spread the news and to share with others, and people began to pray for me. So I'm ever grateful for that. People prayed, and God answered the prayer positively. Multiple miracles in my life, yes. Number one, I survived alive. I could have died. My sister-in-law's ex-husband fell off a ladder too. He fell on his neck. Never survived. Rushed him to the hospital. He died there. I knew Danny. So, those things happen. I could have broken my spine or my neck. Though starved of sufficient oxygen, my brain was and is still working. As Mr. Atkins just said, I'm right now editing a 1,000-page volume, 2 volumes for the seminary at Andrews University. Still serving. God is blessed. And it's not about me. Conclusion, it's only by God's grace. Amazing what God has done. So I'm really thankful for that. Of course, they had to then, in Zimbabwe, they didn't have the best medical treatment, so they flew in an air ambulance, a jet from South Africa, where I was born and raised, and they had a pilot, a co-pilot, a doctor, and a nurse, and they airlifted me because, remember, I had a back problem, so they put me on a stretcher. Oh, in between, I had to tell you this. At that second hospital, I came down with malaria, made it a little more fun, complicated. Survived the malaria, and another additional challenge. They put me on a backboard, and they flew me from Zimbabwe to Zurich. Anybody know where Zurich is? Switzerland. Yeah, but they speak German, of course, there. And I'm glad somebody said Germany, because German, as we were going into the hallway, my wife, who's got a great sense of humor, she saw the sign. Now, I used to understand a lot more. Mr. Wolfgang Kunze, who was around here, still alive for years, he was my German teacher. And I got to know, what's his name, Mr. Baker, who used to teach here years ago. And but as they were taking me in on the stretcher, my wife saw the sign, and by the way, and she saw that not fall station. She thought, this is funny. My husband who fell off the ladder, they take me to the not fall station. But if you understand, German is not funny. It's simply emergency ward, in Afrikaans. My other language is noodval, of course, noodgeval, but similar to that. So having studied German, speaking more than one language, or understanding enough, I knew it wasn't funny. But anyway, they took me in, long story short, 25 days after the accident. Took me a while to get there and everything. April 30, I broke many bones. The doctors had to re-break and reset those wrongly set bones. Now, a little warning, I'm going to show you a little bit of inside my foot and my wrists, and there are a couple of pictures that may be bloody. Some may not like it, so I'm going to alert you. This is inside. And then the next one will be a little bit of blood. I know some people don't like it. That's my right foot with everything that they put in 28 years ago this April, except, I'll show you one more. One thing isn't there anymore, but so here's you can see the foot now from the outside. If you don't want to see a little bit of blood, close your eyes. But that's my foot, okay, with blood draining from it, as you can see. Now, one day I was at Michigan Conference camp meeting, and they had a 5K race, and I joined the race, and as I ran, I heard my foot go, and I had mechanical failure, but so I'll show you what happened. You see that little pin there? It began to unscrew itself. And so what I did, I'm more careful now. I went to a medical doctor who was a marathon runner. I'm very careful. And I said to him, hey, can I watch what you do while you unscrew it? And the next picture will be blood, so you want to close your eyes, okay. But so they unscrewed it, and I watched while they did that. And so here's the good news, though, guys. I don't have a loose screw anymore. All right. This, by the way, is my right wrist, as it is right now, except for one pin that began to work itself loose. A little bit of bloody picture, the next one. Close your eyes if you don't want to see it. But this is the outside of my right wrist. My left wrist, because I'm left-handed, when I hit the concrete 20 feet or so down, my left hand took the pressure because I'm left-handed, so I had more damage to my left wrist, and they had to put that into it. And it's an external fixator, and here's the outside picture you may not want to see, so close your eyes on this one. But this is in the hospital in Switzerland, where the top orthopedic surgeon of the world operated, Dr. Thomas Rudy at the time, fortunately. But somebody's wondering, how much pain did you go through? Yes. I'd never understood pain like then. I'll tell you guys, it's like, man, because, my bones had set. They had to really pull it apart, and some of you know the old saying, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a... Yeah, in my case, all the best doctors and so forth did put Humpty together again, by the grace of God. So some of you, how long? Well, we had 3 medical doctors working on me for a total of 6 hours, and they managed to reconstruct me reasonably well, but the pain was so excruciating, they put me on morphine, 120 milligrams a day, massive morphine dose. I know some of you wondering, did you get addicted? Well, that's another story for another time. Yeah, serious stuff, man. But anyway, there were a couple times, seriously, when I begged them for more painkillers, okay? One time they said, okay, we'll give it to you now 1 hour early, but then you have to wait an hour longer. I said, I'll take it right now. But one time they absolutely refused, and Linda was sitting next to me there at my bedside. Oh, by the way, the plane was large enough just for me. Insurance paid $54,000 for that flight from Zimbabwe to Zurich, and was for me alone. Of course, they had me on a stretcher. They had to have oxygen tanks with me to keep me, And so Linda went with free flight, so she was there. So she was sitting next to my bedside, and she began to sing that song. And I could hardly say a word, and eventually I was able to get to the chorus, be able to sing with her, and I sang that part. The weirdest thing was this. As we sang the end, he touched me and made me whole, totally pain-free. I don't know how it worked. Completely no pain. is amazing, only by the grace of God. I want to show you the doctor who operated on me. His name is Dr. Thomas Rudy, but because we were in Switzerland and nobody really knew us there, we'd flown in as missionaries from Zimbabwe, and so what did people do? They sent us cards, for which I'm really grateful. And of course, Linda put them around, and the medical director came in one day and said, "Boy, this place looks like a card shop." But a lot of people encouraged us because they sent us those cards, and Dr. Rudy was the one who did the operation. Of course, it was a training hospital. They had people from various countries who were there, from Palestine, from India, from Italy, But one of the guys was a Dutchman, and he was the guy who was my main physical therapist. And because I was on morphine so long, morphine kills the pain, but it also kills the appetite. So I didn't want to eat. But fortunately for Linda, she sat there and she ate. We were there for 37 days. She only had to pay for 5 meals. Where did she eat? My food. And as a result, I lost a lot of weight. Somebody looked at it and said, a friend of mine said, "Man, you look like a prisoner of war." And yes, I did. Okay, but came the day when it was time to leave, and this is me at the leaving with saying goodbye to Dr. Rudy. Now, of course, I wanted to get fit again. Here's the point I'm trying to stress. No matter what tragedy comes your way, you have choices still. Okay, and I made the choice I was going to start cycling, which is what I began to do because I couldn't put weight on my right heel. I couldn't walk. I couldn't run. I began to cycle. And cycling got me fit enough so that 7 years after I fell off the tree, I was able to go and run the Comrades Marathon. Yes, you're right. Which is the equivalent of a double marathon plus a 5K for good measure. Okay, so again, God's grace. I told you it's not about me. God was gracious to me. I ran that 55.3 mile race. And then I had a chance later on. My wife came down with cancer. And I challenged her. I said, "Hey, you want to get fit again?" She said, "Yeah." She ran a 10K. And I said, "Hey, you want to do a marathon?" She said, "Yes." So I trained her for the Chicago Marathon. And she did the Chicago Marathon in 2010, October 10. That's why it's called 10-10-10. Okay. So I continued to do fun things. I was here in Michigan after I turned 70. And I was just retired. And so friends of mine said, "Hey, you want to come and hike with us?" "Where?" "Oh, Washington State." I said, "I'll be in Michigan." They said, "Okay, we'll fly you there." "So are you serious?" "Yeah." I didn't believe they'd do it, but they ended up buying my ticket, and they flew me out to go and run around Mount Rainier. If you've heard about it, it's spectacular. And so here's a picture of me and my buddies, just a group of, young people, young enough to be my kids or grandkids, and we ran around Mount Rainier on the Wonderland Trail, 90 miles in 3 days. Absolutely astounding, fun time, just so blessed. I know some people are saying, "So what do you do now?" Well, last year, less than a year ago, I decided to run the 40th anniversary of the Los Angeles Marathon. I went to the race. I had a goal. I encourage you, set your own goals. Don't try to beat other people. Set a goal, focus on it, do your best. My goal was to break 4 hours for the 26.2 miles marathon at the 40th anniversary of the Los Angeles Marathon. So I went, and picture of me around mile 16 running less than a year ago. And then I found out that the last quarter mile or half a mile, the finish line was so far, I realized I wasn't going to make it. So the last maybe 400 to 800 yards, I decided I had to sprint. And this is me flying the last few yards, pushing as best I can. And by God's grace, I made my 4-hour mark. Look at the bottom. See what it was? 3:59:43 by the grace of God. All right. Thank you. 1 minute to finish up. What do I do now? Last year, by the grace of God, I went to 50 states, visiting senior centers, doing walking and or running 50 kilometers per day, 31 miles a day. Visited all 50 states in 50 days to encourage seniors to get active. So that's me in the middle with a red shirt. I call it Senior Strides. I'm trying to encourage other people over 65, because if you don't live fit, you don't enjoy the abundant life that Jesus comes to offer us. This is what I looked like 28 years ago. By the grace of God, I had some of the best medical treatment in the world, but more importantly, I was blessed with people who prayed. people who took time. And so I want to end with one thing. And I'm going to ask you to read it with me. One of my favorite Bible texts. Read with me. Ready? And let us run with endurance the race that God set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, on whom our faith depends from start to finish. Let me pray for you. Holy Father, thank you for Jesus. Thanks for saving my life with good medical treatment. Thanks for answering the prayers of people. Yes. And I'll pray for every young person here, faculty member, staff, that by your grace we can continue to live the abundant life that Jesus came to offer us. In his name we pray. Amen.